We are recording.
All right. I am calling to order this special meeting of the City Council, December 19th, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. Let's start with the roll call first.
Westwood?
Here.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel? Here. Steve? Miller?
Here.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
All right. First off, thank you all for making this to this special meeting. We try to keep these at a minimum. Just to explain for those online in the room as well as for council. So this is what we call a closed meeting. That does not mean the meeting is closed. It means that portions of the meetings are closed where we have talk about basically private information. So what's going to happen is in just a moment, I'm going to announce that we're closing the meeting. We will close the meeting. This is an unusual meeting in that we have two folks today. So we will deal with one first. And so what will happen is, did you decide it was going to be best if we did the online presence first? So what will happen is when we first go into closed session, I'll have the second party, which I believe is in chamber, go out into the lobby and wait. And then we'll hear from our first participant online. At that point, what I'm going to have, I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the participant online to unjoin the meeting and then rejoin. And what will happen is we will leave you in the waiting room until the time that we reopen the meeting. The reason is I'm not 100% convinced that if we boot you, that you'll be able to get back in. But if you quit and then rejoin, it won't be a problem. Is that understood by the online folks?
So you just want us to leave the meeting and come back?
Yeah, so once I announce that your section of the closed meeting is done, I'm going to have you disconnect and immediately rejoin, but realize that when you rejoin, you're going to be in the waiting room as you were when you first got here, and you'll remain in the waiting room until we reopen the meeting.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, yeah, because if I kick you out, I'm not convinced you'll be able to get back in. But if you leave voluntarily and come back and just wait until we get you, I'm highly confident it'll work just as planned.
Okay, all right.
So what we'll do is we'll have two separate sections of the private meeting while the meeting is closed. Neither party will be present for the other party's section of the meeting. When we are done with the private information, I will open the meeting and readmit everybody into the room, and those online I'll readmit to the meeting room. Okay, so you'll be in the waiting room until we're done, and then I'll readmit you to the room. At that point, we will resume in the open meeting. So during the private section during the closed meeting is when we'll discuss all of the private information to the extent council feels needed. No votes will be taken in the closed session of the meeting. That doesn't mean there cannot be discussion about it. It cannot, you can talk about here's what I'm going to do or here's what I'm inclined or why, but there's no vote in the closed session. I will then declare the meeting open. At that point, we will have an open council discussion, which can be as simple as I move to approve or I move to deny X or Y. We're actually going to have two separate motions, or we have two potential motions there. Then we'll take that action. There can be discussion at that point. However, that discussion should not include anything that makes sense. It was private and it was discussed during the private part of the meeting. And then we will finalize the meeting with a section for public comments, which is the public's opportunity to come in and make any comments about anything within the council's purview. Standard rules of 3 minutes will apply. Are there any questions on formalities and logistics before I close the meeting?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. This is Alan Beth. I just wanted to participate in the open part of the meeting during the 3 minutes public input session. Should I do the same thing where I disconnect here shortly and then immediately try to reconnect and chill out?
Yeah, correct. When I close the meeting, hang up, disconnect, and then reconnect, and understand that you will be left in the waiting room state and will be readmitted once the meeting is reopened.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no further question from the table or chambers, the next item on the agenda concerns appeals concerning a determination for the payment of resort tax pursuant to Red Lodge City Ordinance 952, Section 2-4-7. Information concerning the amount of resort tax owed is confidential and shall not be open to inspection by the public unless so ordered by the City Council or a court of competent jurisdiction. As such, the demands of individual privacy clearly exceeds the merits of public disclosure. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting. Stub, if you would stay on, please. And Alan, if you would leave, and anybody else who's online leave, and then you're welcome to rejoin. And just recognize you'll be waiting in the waiting room. All right, that sounds good. All right, so the matter at hand is Kevin and Cindy Stubbs rental is the first one that we have up. What I'd like to do before turning time over to the petitioner is just give everybody a couple of minutes to review the summary that was provided by staff. I do note that the summary does not indicate the amount of tax that was involved. The petitioner may wish to include that information in their comments. It does include the letter as well as the section of code that is there. So I'll be quiet, and if I'll look up and just give me a finger point that lets me know you're done.
Who is the most?
That's the property.
Thank you.
In the meeting, we'll start the recording. Now the recording is open, I'm going to reopen the meeting officially again, and at the same time, we have admitted those that were, we are admitting those in the waiting room. All right, just a quick sound check to make sure that those in the waiting, that have been admitted from the waiting room can hear me. Can I get a confirmation? Thank you, Alan. All right. So, just for the record, while it's been recorded, again, I'm going to officially open the meeting. At this time, I will entertain a motion. Again, I anticipate two motions. That motion should probably take the form of I move to grant a request for an appeal, or I move to deny appeal, and then specify the the official name that was on the staff report, and order as council's option.
I move to grant the appeal for Kevin and Cindy Stubbs rental.
I second that.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Conley. Before we start discussion, I'll just remind council, there are 5 of you here tonight, which means there will be no ties, which means there will be no vote from the mayor. So in order for a motion to pass, it will require 4 votes from council. So with that, I will go ahead and ask if there's any further discussion on the motion to grant the appeal.
I would just like to say that based on the recommendation from the Resort Tax Committee and because of the size of the payment, that I feel it and that we should waive it.
And I would just like to say that one thing that I've seen for the several of these that we've done, or a couple of these that we've done, I do think that there should be better notice to owners when they are late, so that they're not getting into these penalties.
Yeah, I agree, especially looking at this one, with the second quarter due by July 20th, but this notice went out October 29th. I feel like there should have been a notice
At 30
or
days,
two.
at 30 days after
In
the grace
between.
period. At the end of the grace period, it seems to me there should be a notice that you're past due.
I would add that as that ordinance is coming up for council's review and revisiting, that council will have the opportunity to include that guidance and direction on how we should operate. I can certainly work to do that, in the meantime, but I think the appropriate method is for council to update that, and then the mayor will have no choice but to direct staff accordingly, because that's the legislative body's job.
A $250 penalty is much easier to stomach versus $750 one, so.
Okay. Any other conversation at the table regarding the stubs? All right, could I get a roll call on the first motion, please?
Conley,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yeah.
Miller,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes,
Tupin.
Yes.
5-0, the motion passes. I will entertain a motion for RLMP1 LLC.
I move to grant a request for appeal, for RLMT1 LLC.
second.
I have a motion to grant the appeal from Councilmember Conley with a second from Councilmember Ronnie. Any conversation at the table, please?
Same,
Pardon?
the same argument applies in my mind.
This one, I mean, I'm looking at it, and I think she's made one on-time payment?
Two, three.
I will say, this
One,
one does give me a
two,
little
three.
bit more heartburn.
Right.
No offense to you. It's,
But,
the big thing is that is a lot of late payments. I do still feel I want to waive it, specifically because of the small amount and because of the lack of notice. But I do think that, yes, do not let your son pay your resort taxes anymore. And again, it's one thing as as the responsible party for the business, I'm a firm believer that you get to pay for who you hire. And I've had to do that myself, and it's not fun. But at the same time, I see the amount here, and I have also been through, I feel that it's something that's important to recognize that people are human. And I'm just glad that you are recognizing that it's time to do it yourself.
like that 750, you should go to your son.
So-
Well, I think we're showing a consistent pattern here, and I disagree that this is different than the first
It is.
one.
Agreed.
There's too many late payments, and, the fact that the relative stayed there, that's really irrelevant. But, I just wanted to make sure, my point of view is, we have what I perceive as two different cases here. And I'm not willing to let this one go as far as my vote.
I'm kind of siding with Doug on this one, just because it seems like it's negligence on the property owners, like, okay, late time, I get it, we know it's gonna happen again, but then the continuous late payment. Do I think the 750 is a bit much? Yeah, but she also has been notified, in a more timely manner, especially with the 250 and the $500 warning and, completely different scenario.
Yeah, that's,
And I would grant this with the caveat that it will be the only time that we will ever grant an appeal for this property. And my first throw at this was that there are so many late ones that I wasn't going to, but within the grace period, okay, within the grace period. So technically, there was only one outside the grace period. And I know grace period means it's not late, but you do have interest to pay. So technically, she's only got one. And as long as it's understood that this is gonna be it and not again.
well, I think when you register, we're gonna pay this on time. And the fact that she chose to go out of town for her person to be responsible, that's not taking responsibility to me. In other words, some of these earlier late ones, whether they are within the grace period or not, seems like you would speak to the person that's paying your bills and say, hey, I'm getting notices here, I'm paying late, why? Let's take care of this. I mean, I'm just speaking as a
She
responsible.
wasn't getting notices, he was,
Well,
yeah.
my point,
the
if
son
she was
was-
saying, he's the one that does it, well, then you're the responsible one, whether he pays them or not. She's responsible. And after the first couple late notices, I'd say, hey, I mean, if I was a business person and I had somebody paying my bills, I'd make sure it was paid on time. I really would. So anyhow.
Thank you,
we-
Councilmember Miller.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to Councilmember Daniels. I think you started a conversation and kind of jumped around. I want to come back and make sure you
No,
have a chance to.
It's similar, like, I mean, I get it, it's like, you know, the first time, okay, I can see that. The second and the third time, where it, even though it's within a grace period, we're still paying interest on it, like, late is late, you know, and,
So if I count properly, I see that there are 2 times that there was a penalty, including this one. So one prior plus this, and then there were 3 other lates, but lates within the grace period. Am I counting that correctly?
30 days,
Correct.
30 days, late penalty.
Okay.
So I guess, I guess my understanding is that the son has been, who lives in Bozeman, has been the one who's been responsible for making all of these payments. And, everything is addressed to the Bozeman address. And Carol lives here in Red Lodge, correct?
I never got a notice.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that, you know, she was trusting in her son that he was doing this, and she never received any of these.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
Until all of a sudden, you know, they get a $750 penalty, and the son is like, you know.
Well, whose choice was it to send them to the son?
Well, he's an adult, and he was managing it, but it's Carol that's coming here to appeal it. And she's now saying that she's going to take over the payment of these, and it's a very, very small amount. I just think $750 is very excessive. And the letter that they received for that penalty was dated October 29th, and it was due July 20th. So there again, you know, August 20th would have been the 30-day mark, and we went, you know, all the way past that till it was $750. So there again, I just really feel that we should waive this, and we'll deal with it as in the ordinance on our letters personally. So that's
Okay,
my
is
opinion.
there any further discussion that is something new that hasn't already been said, just not everybody said it?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have the ability to reduce the penalty.
I do not believe that we have that within the ordinance. The only thing the ordinance grants us the ability to do is to waive it. And I would be very hesitant to venture outside of that. Between the ordinance and precedents, I'm going to advise that no, we do not.
Waive it or not.
Yeah.
It is like the whole thing or not.
I'm just going to get a staff input. Do you think I'm wise in that call? That if it's not in the ordinance, yeah.
Yeah, this state says that you can't choose.
Yeah, we cannot do that. So, did I understand the question, did I answer it?
Correct.
All right, last chance, I'm just looking around. Hearing none, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Conley,
Yes.
Daniel,
No.
Miller,
No.
Running,
Yes,
Dubin,
Yes.
All right, the vote is 3-2. The motion fails. It requires an affirmative 4 votes per city council rules and procedures. So the appeal, request for appeal is denied. All right, with that, thank you both for being here. What I am going to do at this point is open the discussion to public. This will have timers associated with. If you'd like to address the council on anything in the council's preview, please start by stating your name and address. Direct your comments toward me, and you'll have 3 minutes. And again, this is not a discussion or debate. it is an opportunity to be heard, by the council. And, I'll start in the room, as I always do, to see if there's any public comments.
Yeah, I'm Carol, and thanks for allowing another comment. The fact that notices are not sent out is a major deal. To, I don't care if it goes to a P.O. box in Bozeman or to the owner. But there was no notice for October.
Noted, thank you.
That's not normal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I will now go to online. Alan, I see that your phone is unmuted. If you would like to address the council at this time, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Alan Best, and my address is 508 North Hauser. I am here tonight to propose that the city be open to accepting and holding donations or gifts from private citizens in the form of cryptocurrency. Council members may not know much about cryptocurrency, but suffice it to say that it is a digital asset class, which includes Bitcoin. It is based on something called distributed ledger technology. Cryptocurrency has been hailed as a hedge against inflation and has been described as digital gold because of its programmed scarcity and potential as a store of value. It has also been criticized for being highly volatile and a speculative asset class, and one that is made of thin air with nothing of physical value to back it up. Nonetheless, it is trading for real money on public markets at this time with a market cap in excess of $3 trillion. Understanding that it wouldn't be prudent to use the city's taxpayer dollars to purchase cryptocurrency, I propose that the city open an account that would accept cryptocurrency donations from private citizens or other entities. I suggest this account be named the Red Lodge Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, although it could also hold other types of cryptocurrencies as well. I would suggest that the city plan to hold such donated cryptocurrencies for at least 10 years before considering selling them for the city's benefit. If at some time in the future, the city decided to purchase more cryptocurrency using the city's own dollars, that should not be explicitly prohibited. A strategic Bitcoin reserve is not an entirely new idea. The president-elect has actually proposed that the central bank sell some of its gold to buy Bitcoin to hold in a federal level strategic Bitcoin reserve. This idea was originally proposed by Wyoming Senator Loomis. Texas and Pennsylvania are also considering using their state's funds to create their own strategic Bitcoin reserves. But what I'm proposing differs from these approaches in that it would be funded by private donations, not Red Lodge taxpayer funds, thus removing any fiduciary or investment risk for the city. Donations could come from local crypto enthusiasts or possibly wealthy international donors looking to accelerate Bitcoin's adoption as an international reserve asset. It is conceivable that our first mover advantage could make us a very rich example case for the rest of the world. I would volunteer to seed this account with $200 of Bitcoin and $200 of Ethereum, which is another cryptocurrency. Thank you for your attention. I hope we can continue a discussion on this topic at a future meeting.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you for your comments. And I assume, it sounds like it was well written up. If you would like to, if you would please send a copy of that to the city clerk that we can include in our public meetings, I would be happy to do so.
I would love to. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from online? Hearing none, and having exhausted all of the items on, I will then adjourn the meeting.
Are you walking around with